Every attitude has
Nothing is more
intuition. Well, ideally, you should have thought inspiration is the rocket fuel that we're in.
What if I told you one of the world's most controversial business empires has quietly set its sights on Kenya? Deals have been signed, promises have been made, but the true cost remains hidden from the public. This is the story of Kenya's Adani deal, a $1 billion agreement wrapped in secrecy, controversy, and allegations of corruption. How did it happen, and what does it mean for Kenya's future? Let's dive in. Kenya is East Africa's economic hub, with a growing population and ambitious plans to become a middle-ship country. To achieve this, the government launched Vision 2030, a blueprint for economic transformation through massive infrastructure development. However, these ambitious goals require partnerships and significant funding. Enter the Adani Group, a powerful Indian conglomerate known for building ports, power plants, and railways. The company has a reputation for delivering large-scale projects, but also for controversies involving environmental harm, exploitative practices, and political influence.
Billionaire Indian industrialist Gautam Adani has been charged with paying hundreds of millions of dollars of bribes.
Adani and 7 other senior executives indicted by the Justice Department in connection with a scheme to pay hundreds of millions of dollars.
Kenya's partnership with Adani raised hopes for development, but also alarm bells for those familiar with the group's history. To understand, we need to go back to Kenya's Vision 2030. This ambitious development blueprint seeks to transform Kenya through massive infrastructure investment. And that's where Adani comes in, a partner with the resources to bring this dream to life. In 2023, reports surfaced about a deal between the Kenyan government and Adani. Central to this partnership was the development of a coal-powered energy plant in Lamu and modernization of Mombasa's port facilities. On paper, it promised energy security, jobs, and trade infrastructure. However, Lamu, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, became a focal point for opposition. Environmentalists warned that the coal plant would devastate marine ecosystems, displace communities, and erase cultural heritage. Adding to the controversy was the lack of transparency. Details about the contract, including its financial implications and terms, were withheld from the public. Critics questioned what Kenya was giving up in exchange for Adani's investment. To understand the stakes, we must follow the money. The Adani Group operates by borrowing heavily, securing government contracts, and leveraging political connections. This model has drawn criticism in countries where Adani faced backlash over coal mining, and Sri Lanka, where allegations of political pressure tainted its deals.
Everything that I ever said about Adani has become true with the charges that they are facing in the US. I exposed this deal when I was in Paris, obviously because it's quite dangerous to do it back at home in Kenya because of all the protests that had been going on and there's been abductions. So obviously it's a bit risky to do it in Kenya. And what drew my attention is that the deal was very, very secretive, as you've said. It wasn't in the public sphere, as opposed to what is supposed to be the norm. All the PPP projects are supposed to be actually on their website, but this wasn't there.
Kenyan politicians supporting the deal claimed it would drive economic growth. Yet, concerns about environmental damage and Kenya's rising debt to GDP ratio fueled skepticism. If these projects fail to generate returns, taxpayers could bear the financial burden for decades. The public response was swift. Protests erupted in Lamu, with activists demanding the coal plant be scrapped. Many argued that the project's symbolist a government prioritizing foreign investment over the welfare of its own people. At the heart of the protests was the issue of Kenya's ballooning debt. The country's reliance on foreign loans for infrastructure projects has raised fears of a debt crisis. Critics warned that deals like Adani's could deepen Kenya's financial vulnerabilities while benefiting a select few. The Adani deal is a reflection of a global trend where developing nations eager for progress engage with powerful corporations of tenors great cost. For Kenya, this deal is a critical test of how the country balances its development goals with accountability and sustainability.
I now direct, in furtherance of the principles enshrined in Article 10 of the Constitution on transparency and accountability, and based on new information provided by investigative agencies and partner nations, that the procuring agencies within the Ministry of Transport and the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum immediately cancel the ongoing procurement process for the JKIA expansion public-private partnership transaction, as well as
This story is about more than one company or one deal. It's about the decisions that will shape Kenya's future, decisions that demand transparency and public involvement. The Adani deal raises important questions. What kind of development does Kenya need? Who benefits and who pays the price? These are conversations that every Kenyan and indeed every citizen of developing nation needs to have. By sharing stories like this, we can push for greater accountability and ensure that progress doesn't come at the expense of the people or the environment. Because the fight for Kenya's future is a fight that belongs to us all.